we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to the PEO Speedwagon podcast with your hosts, Rick and Ryan. This is episode 5. Season 2, episode 5. Again, thanks for tuning in, guys. Big news, we're having a studio change. So you'll see some changes to the studio. We will keep the sign with us wherever we decide to go, and surprises to come on the new podcast layout, and many more guests to come here soon. I'm not going to ruin any surprises.
Yeah, moving offices. It's exciting.
Yeah,
new offices. And 3 guests lined up. Mm-hmm. So 3 really cool guests. So none of which are showing up today.
No, none of which are showing up today. Back to the OG crew of me and you talking about the fall selling season. So let's get into it. Yeah.
All right. No, but it is that time of the year. I mean, it is PEO sales forces across the country are gearing up to go these next 120 days, and they're super critical. And people have been working really hard all summer. I know this from the ones we work with. I know this because that's how this industry works. And they're going to go to work, and they're going to go run through the buzzer here on 12/31. And the really cool thing about it is, we've talked about this, like a PEO is an incredibly powerful solution to help a business grow more effectively, grow faster, do more for their employees than basically anything else for small to medium-sized business when it comes to employees. So you also feel like a noble cause to go do this work and work later and work deeper into the night and, break out 4 pairs of readers to be able to read through all these invoices and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, if you did it right and you took care of that company and you put their employees in that organization first, when you bring them into your PEO, you've really given them a powerful vehicle for not only that coming year, but for years beyond. So I've seen that drive in PEO sales reps because of that factor, that alone. Yes, they can make money and they can hit their goals and go on incentive trips and everything else, but I've seen many PEO sales reps get really energized by the fact that they're about to go help small to medium-sized business, and that is a really deep passion for a lot of people, because what not only that means to them, but also to this country, and the 71 million employees that are employed within a PEO, within a small business today. So, it's a fun time of the year that literally every sales rep, once they kind of get past maybe, March, is waiting for this time of the year, because it is really exciting. It's in some ways a little bit magical, like the holidays.
Yeah, the fall selling season.
Yeah,
the pumpkin spice lattes are on their way.
I heard they're out.
They're out already, and we're gonna go start knocking doors.
That you no,
I'll go knock some doors.
No, yes we are. We're gonna start. We'll all the apple pies and pumpkin pies and everything else.
Start delivering them.
Yeah,
awesome. Well, PEOMG did a funny post today, or our marketing department made a funny post today. You didn't start a business to be reached out to by or have to dodge PEO sales reps calls because you have an upcoming renewal. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty timely, with the fall selling season, and so these PEOs are going to be reaching out constantly to small businesses and I guess just speak to kind of the season that we're in, and what the small businesses are going to be feeling from these sales reps in the next few months.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize the situation that created that, but also the situation PEO sales reps are in right now.
Yeah,
it goes without saying, the summer months are really challenging for PEO sales reps. There is a lot of empathy. There's a lot of work that's done in that time, and because of kids being out of school or vacations that people take, PEO processes elongate and they kind of get a little more challenging, and frankly some don't go anywhere at a higher interval than other times of the year. So because of that, PEO sales reps get smart and they start finding out who these companies are that have renewals in October, November, December, or January 1, right? Either by way of getting there due to the ACA and their plans being remitted to these dates, or if they just kind of got there on their own through the mechanism to set up their health care plan for the first time or through changes they've done. So now they're really hungry, right? It's kind of like they've been in the desert, and the fall selling season and the inertia that comes along with the fall selling season because of how it aligns well with the end of the year, meaning PEO, and the way PEO can impact a small business, is kind of like this oasis, right? Yeah. And so they get really hungry. They've got the number, they've got the phone number set up, they know the renewal dates, they've got it all in front of them, and so they call, and they call, and they call, and they call, because it's true. If you're going to be considering what your broker or your current PEO is bringing you in the way of an increase, like this is a time to evaluate options. Like you should have your antennas up for what other options exist out there, because this is, as everybody says over and over and again, and myself included, like the healthcare is the second largest expense as it relates to being an employer. Yeah. So you need to be inspecting it every single year. So the PEO reps call, and they call again, and they call again, and then they stick pumpkin spice latte coffee in, or whatever, PSL into a coffee mug and drop it off on your door, and they bring you pumpkin pies, and they do all the things they can because this is an opportunity for them, and they're very hungry. Yeah. And so one, I empathize. One, did it. Two, led people who did it, and just know that summer's challenging, and so now the fall selling season is this opportunity, like the air cools, and you get energized, and you're ready to go to work and finish out the year strong. On the flip side of that, though, like if you're a business owner, like you are getting bombarded. Like there are data lists and reserves, and there are things you have to register your healthcare plan or your 401k with in different states that kind of tell people right where you are, and so inevitably they all start calling you, and you've got a business to run. Like you don't have this time to just field every sales rep's call or certainly respond to their emails or their LinkedIn connections, and all with the same design of trying to get on your calendar to figure out, hey, we know you've got a renewal coming up, come talk to me. Mm-hmm. So I see both sides of it, but the reason at the end of the day is that the end of the year is this very well-positioned window to evaluate this particular service model. For the reason I just described, with the way that you're evaluating your healthcare already, it's your second largest expense, you should be checking it out. But also, if you are looking for human capital and solutions around it to be this thing that accelerates your growth in 2025, helps mitigate any issues you have in the business around HR or compliance or inhibitors of growth, having this assembled to kind of be this getting better agenda concept heading into the coming year is a really great way to do it. Yeah. And for some businesses, December's not a busy month. Some businesses it's extremely busy, but some it's not. And so implementing a PEO in December can be a really good time to do that, because like the office kind of has its own rhythm, and it starts to slow down a little bit. And so these are things that you can do. It's for those where it's super busy, that it becomes very hard. But there are enough businesses out there that December isn't, terribly busy, and so this helps with that. And again, the way not only just the healthcare cost, but the way the healthcare itself aligns with the calendar year for deductibles, maximum out of pockets, FSA, HSA contribution maxes. It does have kind of that. It's very congruent at that time of the year for these things to come together, and so. That coupled with the PEO reps being super hungry, that's what you see. And that's why our marketing department made that joke, because it's kind of tongue in cheek at what we know is about to happen. Yeah. Yeah, December can be thought of for some companies like the summer Friday of the calendar year. Yep. For some people they get to have a nice half day and kind of blow it off a little bit. Right. Hang in the pool, float around. Float around, send out messages. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we know what that looks like. It's funny too, because you think of you said how the medical side of things is one of the largest expenses for an employer, and the whole idea with a PEO is you get to have these things outsourced and taken care of for you that are correct. All of the other components of the PEO, not just the healthcare side, but the actual like HR infrastructure that you get. Mm-hmm. But then you get that reminder kind of every year that you're like, while I have gotten help on all of my HR front needs from this PEO. Now, towards the end of the year, I need to dive back into that kind of, and even though I've loaned some of it off to them so that they can take care of it, it's my responsibility now to go back in and dig it back up and see what my options are, and if I can shop around for a good rate and do that at the right time so that you can have the largest possible savings if you do end up needing to move. Yeah. Yeah. No, it certainly is. I mean, what leads to active PEO clients looking at other PEOs is really two reasons. One, my healthcare costs are out of control even with a PEO. I'm getting substantial increases, and we all know that when I was sold this or explained and educated how this was going to work, that was not what I was told. I was told small single-digit increases, like they all say it across
Consistency.
the board. Consistency, stabilization of costs, low increases. And sometimes that doesn't happen. And sometimes that doesn't happen because that wasn't an accurate statement on the PEO's part, and sometimes that didn't happen because the health of that particular group changed and it got worse and claims went up, and the PEO did not assess that correctly because that wasn't the history of that client up to that point. And so PEOs don't absolve increases, they just attempt to mitigate them.
Yeah.
So that's one reason. And then the other is I'm not getting return on my human capital investment, meaning the PEO. Like, I'm not getting great service, I'm not feeling great support, or I'm just not seeing the impact. Like, I was told this was going to help me solve a whole bunch of things. And we have enough conversations with current PEO clients where they're going like, I feel like I do just as much work, if not more, because I feel like I'm doing some of the PEO's job. That is not across the board like that, but that does happen. And so people go like, I liked this PEO concept, so I'm gonna maybe try a different one. And so people are open to those conversations largely around those two reasons, and they want to find something where they can get both. They can get the value that they wanted, and they can get the healthcare cost savings.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When they're looking though for the PEOs and the different healthcare structures they have. From what I remember, our conversation was you can have a PEO that has, you can get on their master plan essentially. Sometimes they do something where they sort of borrow a healthcare plan, and then or they have a main one, but then they borrow to like fill in some of the gaps of where that one might not cover. Maybe if you have employees in certain states. What are, I guess, the red and green flags that pop up when you're looking at a PEO and their healthcare plan to say like, this is a pretty good one, this one, I need to have some questions on and maybe to stay away from?
It depends on what that business owner and that particular business needs to attract, retain, motivate, develop, and reward their people through that benefit package. So there isn't like just one answer. Overarchingly, I do believe that a PEO that offers a comprehensive plan that is fully integrated within the PEO provides the best experience for the employees, right? There is one point of contact, there is one mobile platform, there is one on, web-based or, desktop platform, and everything exists, and that information spiders across the whole system. So from my healthcare cards to my FSA balances to my doctors, it's all in one place. And a master plan structure does provide that because it's hosted within the PEO through whatever carrier they're working with. There are certainly options. We're seeing it more as PEOs are trying to become more dynamic and make themselves more accessible to more small to medium-sized businesses, that they will provide MEC level plan design, so minimum essential coverage, or they will pair better with a existing outside kept healthcare plan through your current broker. Like, they're trying to be more malleable with working with existing brokers who have relationships with that company, and then they can bolt on their PEO and charge a lower fee, and they have lower risk profile because they're not owning the health insurance plan like there are. So it really is going to depend on what's best for that business, like what they're truly accomplishing. We have most of our clients have a master plan, but we have a handful of clients that have brokered healthcare plans and options around that. And so it was aligning the PEO and their services and benefit and admin tools and support to the right one that was important. But I know you've heard me say it enough. Like, I do, if I had to make a choice, like what is the most comprehensive and an impactful one, it is one where the master plan is held within the PEO.
Yeah, and from your experience in the industry, did you feel like the shift has gone to this, I think I've heard it called like PEO Lite, where you can kind of have more of a la carte, pick what you need version of a PEO. Are you seeing more, even some of the traditional ones, shifting towards that to just be more flexible and doing things like having those different plans available?
Yeah. We're seeing there are more that are shifting towards that to provide options and be more modular in nature. So a small business can tap into the things that they want, and then they can charge for those services appropriately. and manage their expense to provide that service. And then I see some leaning into just their belief system, like, no, there is a right way to do this, and it is all inclusive, and it is heavy both in transactional and transformational HR. And like that's the PEO we at ABC PEO believe should be delivered, and the companies that align to that will be the ones that are our clients. So I see it going both ways. I see some leaning heavily into what they've always done because that's where what they think is right. And then I see some that are becoming a little more nimble to open the doors up to working with companies in different ways. And there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah, that makes sense. We think about it a lot from helping the client choose the PEO, but there is the other side that the PEOs are also choosing their clients.
Absolutely.
And they're choosing their clients because they become part of the group that then goes and gets the healthcare coverage, as a group. And so to have maybe not an offering of a PEO light or pick what you want style, they are potentially filtering out some people that they say, okay, we've decided like we're going to work with these types of businesses versus these because that's the kind of group we want to have.
Yep. I mean, we help with the PEO selection process, and through the unique way we do it, we really shepherd people through that. But you're absolutely right. The PEOs have a client selection process that shows up not only in the underwriting, but the assessment of the workers' comp risk, the factors of the types of businesses they work with, and so SIC codes and NAICS codes, and then also just like what kind of like services do they want to deliver to those companies? And so there is two selection processes going on, which is frustrating for primarily one group of people, which is the PEO sales reps, because it is frustrating when you find a company who's really interested and your PEO, the company that you work with, isn't like being terribly supportive because they fall a little bit outside the lines of like what a perfect fit client looks like for that PEO. I can certainly appreciate that's really frustrating. And so PEO sales reps get really good at doing internal selling as much as they do external selling. Yeah,
talking to the underwriters and saying, hey, what can we do to get these folks on our plan and everything.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, you work all day, all week, all month, all year trying to find good fit customers who believe and you kind of gel with and can see the value of what this outsourced HR model through a PEO can do. And then you get all this data, which that's a pain in the ass as well, both for the client and for the PEO rep. And then you turn it in and you get a decline, or you get something back that represents, hey, we're not that interested.
Yeah.
And that's a hard pill to swallow because of all the work you do just to get to that point.
Or, the PEO rep is told all year, call me in a couple months, call me in September. And they call them in September and they say, we're working with PEOMG.
Oh. Well, I don't know what we can do about that.
Yeah, but, that's just going to happen.
Yeah, that's going to happen. No, but I mean, or even worse, they were working with another PEO. Somebody got in the door during that time, and that's why. I mean, that is why they're calling at this time of the year. Like, they know where they are. They've had the prior conversations to get that data, to know that they're a Q4 renewal. So, like I said, I see both sides of it. If you're a business owner, it's frustrating. Like, you're being bombarded. And if you're a PEO rep, like, you are hitting brick walls all the time. So when somebody kind of gives you a little bit of a breadcrumb to be able to find a good fit customer by way of their renewal date or whatever, like, you're gonna follow it.
Right. Yeah.
The PEO built the game, like built the structure, so they know, and they have the sales reps who play the game inside the structure that the PEO built, so they understand both sides of it.
Yeah.
There's this window, and it used to be 60 days. And you've seen within the PEO universe it expand to 90 days. Really, I think, to address this in some ways. The problem is, like, when you have a 90-day, like, there is no renewal police running around saying, like, hey, you're supposed to have given your client a renewal, and so if you're a PEO rep waiting for the renewal, like, you're kind of hamstrung, right? And so, like, in a prior one, we talked about, like, what are things you can be doing in your PEO sales process to try to bridge the gap between where you are now and the absence of the renewal, and kind of waiting for that event to happen where the broker gives it to your client to be able to get it, to then get it in and, like, still have a productive process.
And that's the sweet spot to look.
So the sweet spot is really, you got a January 1 renewal. As an example, January 1 renewal. that's 90 days out is October 1. Like you, in theory, most advantageous point to be able to get a data in for January 1 is kind of like right around September 15th, where they know it's 105 days out from the renewal. If you're going to start this process and you get a clean file and you get it submitted, like the PEO really is doing a disservice to its sales opportunity to drag its feet at that point. Because some brokers won't get you to the renewal until 60 days, and at the earliest they will is 90 days. And so now you got to force your sales rep to sit on their hands and not be able to deliver pricing.
Yeah.
And so...
And they're just sitting on their hands waiting for then the other PEO to...
Yeah, I mean, you're allowing other PEOs to come in because they haven't moved deeper into the process.
Yeah.
You're allowing frustration to build from the business owner going like, okay, like we had this meeting and I got excited and now there's nothing to do until I go meet with my healthcare broker. And like you want deal velocity, because if you actually establish some needs and connected the dots between what the PEO can do for that particular small to medium-sized business owner, you want to seize on that.
Right,
and then if you let it drop off because you got to wait for the broker,
right,
because your underwriting department is saying, hey, we're not going to price it without it, that broker could get back in the door. Time, law of interest over time, attrition of interest, just due to lapsing time. Plus, the broker gets in and goes, hey, we don't have a bad renewal. You don't need to do this. I can do that. If you don't like your HR, like I can refer you to a, Rippling or somebody else that we work with, and like because your deal velocity is slowed down, you've created this gap for interference to begin.
So why is it different for us than where like we go to a PEO with a client and we say, hey, would you price them? Can't they just say, oh, well, we need their renewal? But they don't, because they know that essentially takes them out of the competition. And so they're like,
it knows, yes, it could take them out of the competition, too, or like they recognize that in and itself, they can't make the prospect wait this long for pricing. Yeah. Like they're going to kill their own deal. Mm-hmm. So there's a balancing act that these underwriting departments do have to go through. It's like, hey, we can't make a bad decision just because we're not willing to take a little more time.
Right.
And then there's also like, hey, we can't kill the deal just and we're going to make these people wait. Right. So it's so that's why I think like September 15th is a really big day, because you're far enough away from the 90-day window. You're still a half a month away, 15 days.
Yeah.
To go like, okay, you're really going to kill the deal over 15 days? Price it. Underwriting group, you know how to factor trends. You got these AI tools that can give you more insight than you used to be able to have. Like price it and keep the process moving. And then the game is, if they price it here, if your current price is here, and the PEO comes in and prices it right here, and then they get an increase that takes them all the way up to here, all that is white meat for the opportunity for the business owner.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Why are all the renewals then around that same time, like October 1st, or that's just they begin to start showing up? Because and it's not like all PEOs are like, today's the day you're getting, all the renewals for Insperity go out today.
There are certain regulations in the insurance industry, and then there are also just best practices that are established that like get your customer the renewal as soon as you can.
Sure.
We had an opportunity earlier in the year where we knew they were getting a bad renewal because the current PEO was dragging their feet. They were taking every single day that they could to deliver this renewal to this client of ours because they were going to minimize their opportunities for search. So the current PEO didn't know we were in. They didn't know that another PEO was in, and we didn't know but as soon as that renewal came, they were doing exactly what we forecasted they would do.
Yeah. Because
PEOs or insurance brokers, if they've got bad news, they're going to wait to the last minute to tell them. Because no one loves delivering bad news, so people aren't like excited to run out the door and share that information.
What is last minute? What's a time frame on that's a last minute delivery?
It's really this one, got to like 45 days before.
Wow.
And like you have to have an open enrollment period start within 30 days of whenever your plan effectiveness is going to be. So like that was a May 1 renewal. They had to start by by law basically had to start an open enrollment period by April 1st. And I think they didn't get it till March 15th, 18th.
Well, so like if it's beginning of November and you haven't gotten your renewal, you
For
can,
a January 1.
you can pretty much guarantee it's going to be not a very pretty renewal.
Right. It's not going to be one of two things. It's not going to be a pretty renewal, or you are not a priority, and maybe it's because you're small.
Sure.
Smaller in the spectrum.
Yeah.
So like either one is not good.
Yeah.
Like that's not how you should be treated. They some of these PEOs have substantial client bases, and because of the density of the renewals in the fourth quarter and January 1, there is a lot of work to be done. We staffed up always in our underwriting departments at Insperity and account managers. We did cross training, so more people were available to manage renewals during that time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what's right is right. You need to get a business owner the information they need to make a decision for the coming year for their second largest expense as it relates to being an employer. So like you don't really have the right to drag your feet just because it's bad news.
Yeah.
Or just because you've perhaps deemed them not as great of a priority. Like that's not fair. We don't let that happen to our clients. But there's also, business owners who have competing priorities, and if they're kind of assuming their broker or their PEO is going to come knock on their door and say, hey, you need to look at this, and then all of a sudden a week or two slips by and now you're really up against it. Right. So that's where someone needs to be operating in the best interest of the business owner, because they've got other things they're looking at.
What's that window that you're saying where they deliver the late renewal information for them and then they're crunched on time? Why are they so crunched on time? You're saying they have to then have
They have to have an open enrollment period.
Within a certain time frame?
At least the 30 days leading up to
Okay.
the turnover of the rates or any material plan adjustments that occurred as a function of the renewal.
Okay.
So if you're a 1/1 renewal, you have to have an open enrollment period from basically 12/1 to 1/30, 1/31. You have to give your employees the opportunity to make any adjustments, become familiar with the costs and changes, like that's required.
Gotcha.
So then if you don't bring it till, let's say, November 15th, like that's a crunch. Not only factoring like there's the Thanksgiving holiday and the loss of days there, like, but it's a busy time of the year for a lot of businesses, given the time of the year and fall selling season for their respective business, or if they're in consumer product space, like, the Black Friday and all, like the big holiday sales. So like now I got to squeeze this in and make some really important decisions that impact my employees and their families. So the fact that you back that up as far as you can as a PEO or as a health insurance broker.
Yeah, knowing they have a deadline.
And carrier.
Yeah.
It's not just the brokers, to be fair. Then you're not leaving them much time to make a decision. And now they're under duress and stress. And like it's not great.
That's not something that can be moved either. They're not like, oh, we got this late. Why don't we? You can't go like off cycle, right?
Right. Yeah. No one's going like, hey, we got this late.
We'll just do a February 1 renewal, or whatever.
It does not work that way.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, one, it doesn't work that way. Two, people wouldn't like that either, because if you're on a 1/1, one of the benefits of being on 1/1 is your calendar year is aligned to the benefit year.
Right.
So like shifting it a month to address the tardiness is not a viable option. Not only can you not do it, it's also not really viable. It actually takes things away from you. You perhaps work to get in place. We've worked with a lot of companies to help them get to 1/1s because they see how it is linear with everything else that's going on in the healthcare plan and the benefits themselves with deductibles and maximum out of pocket. So to lose that would also be kind of a kick in the teeth.
So what are some of the PEOs or the people that are not on the 1/1 renewals? Why are they on these kind of weirder renewal dates, right? There's some in like June and sometimes even later in the year.
One, it's just maybe when they've offered health insurance.
Oh, okay.
For the very first time in their company's history.
Yeah.
Maybe they they started their business at one point in time and it became viable for them to offer benefits on April 1st for whatever reason, and they've never altered it, which is a perfectly fine reason. There's nothing wrong with that. And usually over time, like people kind of just get used to that. Otherwise, maybe something happened, like maybe they did get a large increase and they shifted and they got some sort of 15-month or 18-month rate lock, and so it shifted the renewal date. There's a host of reasons, all of which is fine. I do find if you're in the latter, like this time of the year, kind of June, July, August, it's a really hard spot to be in to make a shift, because enough time passes in the year for FSA contributions, the opportunity to incur expenses on your healthcare plan, like deductibles and maximum out of pocket.
Right.
That if you shift at that point in time to a new plan or try to get on something that's going to work you into a PEO or a 1-1 or something like that, like you're going to have a big transitional expense.
Yeah.
Some employees are going to lose FSA dollars. Some employees are going to lose deductible credit or or max out of pocket credit, and so you kind of get stuck on an island there. And when you make that, it's going to have some implications for some people. So we try to find creative ways to do that, where maybe if someone is a 7-1, we just did it for a couple companies that are 7-1s or 8-1s, they're now transitioning a month or two after their renewal to a PEO with a 15-month rate lock that's going to get them to 1/1/2026. And then it's real clean, it's real nice, and the employees will enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because if there is going to be a sizable increase, if that's just required because of the claims that you have on your plan and your employees incur, then the best thing you can have is offer the employee at their open enrollment period, at renewal, the opportunity to assess what the next 12 months are going to look like.
Yeah.
And the best way for that to happen is on a calendar year.
Well, what happens though, even if you put them on a 15-month to go back to a 1/1, what happens to the deductibles that the employees accrued or the FSA that they...
They will go from that window of time, they'll wrap up the benefit plan year, and then they'll start a new benefit plan year, and it'll be very clean. So if someone started 10/1 on a new plan, the year would end 1/1, and then they'd start over again, and then that second year on the plan, or the kind of the second component, would end on 12/31 of 2025.
Right, but in that first year when they decide to switch, like they've been doing a July 1st renewal for some reason for a while, and somebody's accrued or paid into their deductible leading up to beginning of July, then they switch. Right. So then would they get like a credit or something? Yeah.
If you're talking doing a transition in the PEO world, PEOs can have strength with their carriers to be able to do deductible carryover credits.
Gotcha.
Which can soften some of the blow. If you've had an employee that's had a sizable max out of pocket expense, you may just have to look at that at a one-on-one basis and maybe do something for that employee to try and soften that. But the PEOs and their healthcare relationships will allow, a lot of them I should say, not all, will allow for deductible carryover to be applied.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then what you do with an FSA balance is you just get the employees to spend all the money before their current FSA ends and they start on the PEO one. So, and now there's opportunities with the FSAstore.com or different marketplace options that have been created where employees can go spend that money more rapidly and get things they actually need or could use, so they don't lose those dollars.
Yeah, that seems to be kind of a regulatory lever as they just keep expanding what FSA and HSA dollars can buy.
Yeah, which is great. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be pretty rigid. And now you're seeing more options of what people can use that stuff on, which is great.
Yeah. When you got back from Colorado, you could have used some of that FSA sunscreen you can buy.
It would have been aloe at that point.
It would have been aloe.
Actually what I needed. It was not.
You're peeling.
I was staying inside, so I didn't need sunscreen at that point. I just needed some aloe remedy. But yeah,
nice.
You can. That's probably on there too. I've never looked though.
It is. Yeah, it covers a crazy amount of stuff.
Aloe's on there.
Aloe is on there.
Aloe's on there.
Yeah. There's a lot of things on there.
It's information I could have used a while ago.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. This has been episode 5 of season 2. Thanks for tuning in.